welcome to episode 1 of the Dad Squad Solutions podcast. Here today is myself, TK, Chad, and Kai. Everybody give it up for Kai. So here at Dad Squad Solutions, we are here to not only share life with you, our community, but we're also here to basically give you a sense of who we are, stories that we've been through and situations we've come from that will eventually help you along the way and make you a better dad or just a human being in total. So today is going to be deep, I would say. We're going to talk about the beginning. So we know this whole channel is about dads and who we are. And so who's the greatest influencer for young boys? Their fathers.
Right.
And so we want to talk about what was it like growing up with our dads or the lack thereof? What impact did that play on you, both positive and negative? And what are some things that maybe you take today is a lesson that you learned through the influence of your own father? So who wants to start first?
Go for it, brother.
Well, okay, cool. So, hey guys, my name is Kai, of course. And let's take it back. Let's run it back to the very beginning. My experience was pretty much chilled, man. It was very okay at the beginning, you know, like it should be. Every kid grows up with a dad to some extent. Grew up with my dad. My parents were never married. Of course, eventually my dad, I always made a joke out of this. I always say my dad went to go buy milk and never came back. He did. He was around. It's not like he wasn't around, you know. So for a very limited time, my dad was there up until I was primary school ages. I'm not sure quite exactly how old I was. And that's when he started, you know, being less present in my life, of course. He tried to be very intentional. You know, he would spend weekends with me, of course. Trying to get me to his place. He was already married at the time, so he had his wife there, which was a challenge for me personally as well, having to be another woman's child. It was very hard for me at that time. And I feel like it impacted me to be the man that I am today. The influence shapes you or makes you want to be better. It just depends on how you perceive it, right? Whether your parent is present or not. It's just how you take it. I took it as a joke initially. It was just a thing. I was like, oh, he's never there. You know, it's okay. And then eventually I was like, no, man, I want to change this. Eventually when I made the cognitive decision that I want to be a dad, I'm ready to be a father. And I've been saying this. It's like a song I sing. I took that as motivation and I was like, listen, I don't want to be a father like my father. How can I be different? How can I take what he has done and how do I turn that around and use that for me, right? Like trying to break those generational curses or Saturns, right? Habits and stuff like that. Him not being present has formed me to be a guy who has looked at fatherhood in a different light. And it's not like I didn't grow up without a father because I have a stepfather and he is a great guy. You know, he stepped into the role of being my father and he's done an impeccable job, you know, to be honest. So it's not like I didn't have that father figure, but then taking it back to my own personal father, you know. And so, yeah, man.
And, you know, it's really funny because when you look at statistics, right? Statistics say that when you bring another step-parent, especially a male, into the home, the rate of abuse goes up by a whole lot. So I say, listen, kudos to your stepfather because he did what a real man does, is walk in, takes responsibility and say, you are mine, I'm doing it.
Right.
But quick question, cognition, you mentioned that word. Where were you when your dad was there cognitively, when he left, and then when your stepfather came in? Like cognitively, were you sad, depressed, angry? Where were you in the flow of that transition?
I did grow up without my dad, right? So him not being there was not like a thing that affected me any differently because I was like, man, he's never been there anyway, you know, so it didn't have any impact on me, or I wasn't wise enough, I wasn't woke enough to actually see the impact it had on me or how it should impact me, I guess. It came to a point, the only biggest challenge was when I was transitioning for high school. My mom and my dad had a conversation. It was like, okay, we're gonna send this guy to high school. It's a private school. Of course, private schools are more expensive, right? And she was like, okay, so how are we gonna financially split this? How are we gonna do this? And his response was, well, it was your decision to take him to an expensive school, so you can clearly take care of it, right? And that's when he completely just stepped out of my life. And that was back in 2014. That was the first time I actually felt the impact, right? I was like, man, a father to utter such words, even if it wasn't to my face, having to see that this guy who is supposed to care for me, supposed to walk me through life, supposed to meet my needs, right, is just stepping out and just saying that, hey, I'm not gonna pitch in anything. You got this. I would say emotion-wise, what I felt at that time was just frustration and anger. How is it that you just gonna abandon me? Like I've always said this. My dad has so many kids, right? He has over 24 kids. Oh, my word,
My word. As they are efficiency, I shall have.
he has surely many kids. He was blessed like Abraham. So he has more than 24 kids. So I tried to convince myself that, hey, listen, this is just probably because financially it's a strain maybe on him. I was like, no, man, it's not, because all his kids are all old enough. I was like, that cannot be a big financial constraint, right? It shouldn't be a reason for you to just say that I'm not going to pitch in, I'm not going to do anything. At the time, I did so many things. I had all this extracurricular activity. I mean, what do you call them? Extracurricular. Yeah, exactly, right. I used to do rugby, so I used to travel a lot for those. I needed to pay school fees. I needed to pay boarding school fees, like the hostel fees. The financial aspect of him where he wasn't present, and I felt it. And I could still call him. I could still talk to him, though. So it wasn't like I didn't have communication with him at all, right? So now it was just me feeling the financial aspect of it and him not being present in that aspect, right? Fast forward, finished that, came to Thailand in 2019 towards the end. We needed to pay for flight tickets, very expensive, by the way, from there to get here. I needed to get accommodation. Yeah, I was fresh out of high school, right? So I needed to get accommodation. I needed to do all of the study halls. It was very stressful. And remembering, my dad said, you took this guy to an expensive school, so you do 80, right? And now I'm coming to Thailand. It's completely different ball game at this point, right? Because now the finances are increasing. I'm going to college here. It's more expensive. I need to pay all these extra things. And he only chipped in about 200 baht. And he told me like, okay, use this for like buy some food for the road or something. I was like, first of all, I'm getting on a plane. There's food in the plane. I don't need this 200 baht that you're giving me right now. So as soon as we go to the airport, I gave the 200 baht to my mom, and I was like, you know what? Use it for fuel or whatever you want to use it for, because I'm not going to need it. Came here, he's still not present. So I would say, all of this emotion-wise, the very first thing that I felt from him, apart from the void of him not being there, was just the frustration and the anger, because there's times where it became so much on my mom alone, right? This was before my stepdad was in the picture, right? It became financially so hard on her that it frustrated me as well. So many times that I was even considering dropping out of school, because I was like, man, this is so crazy. I just need to start supporting my mom. How can I do better? And this is when I now became aware of like, man, he actually does not just impact me, but like everybody around my life, right? And that's when I made the decision that I don't want to be like him. I want to be able to be a guy who can be present in my kid's life, right? And every time I see a present dad, it always gives me goosebumps, because I'm like, man, that's how I want to be. That is, it just,
As we flick our hair, literally. Well, thank you.
so kudos to you guys for doing a good job. You guys are great dads. Keep at it, because it does affect your kids. It affects kids in so many different ways, in ways you wouldn't even think about, because you're just like, oh, he's just with his mom. He's good, right? He's with his mom. He doesn't really need me, or I haven't spoken. Like, I've been in Thailand for close to 6 years now. And in these 6 years, I've spoken to my dad probably only 3 of those 6 years. This whole year, we haven't spoken. The whole of last year, we only spoke a couple of times. And that was also just because I needed to get back to Thailand. I was like, step up his game, and he, yeah, it's cool. Fly back here, and stuff like that. And that's like when we speak is only when I'm like, I don't want to say intimidating him or like not trying to see like I need your help here,
Right.
and
That's
that's
not wrong for you to do.
exactly. And then it came to a point where I was like, I'm gonna stop reaching out, because yes, I am the son. I'm gonna reach out, right? But then if I feel like there's nothing positive you bring to my life, there's nothing that you contribute, I step out, right? I mentally just checked out, and that's when I stopped putting in the effort to reach out as well. And it's been what, a couple of years now without us talking, and I'm like, I'm okay with that, bro. I'm okay with that. Yeah.
For our listeners, just a quick little nudge there. Kai is not married. He's single. He's available. Just saying. Uh, and no kids. This aspect that you bring is so important that a lot of men go through this is they start feeling some form of resentment. I love what you just said was if he isn't adding to your life in this moment, then it's okay to have that distance between you. God has supplied everything that you need. So you don't necessarily need to pull on him anymore if he doesn't want to take that right or that position in your life.
Right.
Anybody that's listening that may be focusing on that and saying like, I hate my dad. I don't want to be around my dad. Forget him. You don't need to do that.
The biggest thing for me also with being a Christian, it's engraved in us, right? It's literally a thing of like, you gotta forgive, forgive and forget, or to move on, right? Knowing or having that personal relationship with him, and also knowing that forgiving or holding on to this is just poison to myself, right? So it doesn't.
Forgiveness is not for him, it's for you. It's for me.
Literally, exactly, and that's why I don't hold resentment or anything. But it's a thing that eventually it does come up here and there. When you're just like, man, if only, just
Right.
just that validation from your father, just that tap on the back. Well done, son. You did good. A lot of people don't have that, right? And I was fortunate enough to have a stepfather who was always there to, a pat on the back or, financial support, all of this. He was there in all aspects, right? So for me, I didn't feel that, right? And I'm like most people, to our listeners out there, I feel like some people go through this where the fathers are not present and they just feel that void, that like, man, I just need my dad. I just need validation. I just need a pat on the back. I just need, how do I go about that? Honestly, for me, I just don't hold grudges, man. Just forgive and forget. You don't have to forget, but just forgive, move on. If it doesn't bring any positive impact to your life, then there is no point on holding on. There's this quote that I read at some point in my life where it said that sometimes holding on, it gave an illustration of a person holding on to a rope, and the rope was being pulled, right? And it was wrapped around the hand, and the person was holding on to this rope, right? Takeaway from that was sometimes it's better to let go than holding on, because holding on can do much more damage than actually just letting go and just living your life, being the person who you are, the person who you're meant to be, and the person I feel like you can be. There's so much potential once you actually tap in and you actually get to know who you are for yourself.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Powerful word, brother. Powerful word. Chad?
All right. Okay. So I think I can identify a few things that are quite similar in my life. Yeah, I want to share something about my relationship with my dad. And before talking about that, I think just maybe a brief kind of my understanding from what I heard from both my dad and my mom. Just kind of a little bit of who he is. The funny thing about my dad is that he never wanted to have kids. And his logic is that he loves kids so much that he doesn't want to have them. Because he believes that life is just suffering. So he doesn't want to bring you into the world where you have the chance, this probability of suffering, of something bad happening to you, right? Because I think it has to do with his childhood as well. He grew up with not a broken home, but kind of a distressed home, because financially, I heard that my grandparents were doing so well during that time. It was right after the Second World War. My grandfather, he was kind of, how do you call this? The soldier that kind of escaped from, the ROC, Republic of China, and they were having this despite between the nationalists and the communists, right? So I don't know how to describe that. One of those escapees, right? Escapees from so he came to Thailand. He started building everything from scratch, right? So I can understand from early on that his childhood was not so easy. You know, they really struggled. And then my grandfather passed away when my dad was only like in his teens, like 13, I think around 13, 14. So he was mainly raised by my grandmother. And my grandmother is kind of similar to kind of your dad, Kai, like not really there, right? She's there, but you know, not really, you know, doing the kind of feeling that role, yeah. So I can understand the fear, the anxiety, the worry now looking back, and so I can understand why he does not want to have kids, but. Yeah, but long story short, you know, here I am. Right. So they never planned. My mom is like really wanted to have kids, right? But my dad is not so much. But once I was born, and he just basically kind of sacrificed a lot for me. In terms of relationship, I don't think he really knows how to be a dad, but he knows that he has to sacrifice, and especially in terms of finances. So if he were to earn X amount of money, he would spend X amount on me, on the family. So I really appreciate him for that, for sacrificing, you know, financially for the family. But I think in terms of, you know, building character and me having a good model, I wouldn't say that he's like the best model. No. But I think I don't resent him for that. It's just that I think he's doing the best with what he has. And so there are some aspects of his character, which I think we'll get into further detail as we talk, that I really feel, this is not something that I want to model after. And long story short, my mom and my dad are also divorced, but they're still somehow together because, you know, they've been through thick and thin, and they're still really good, you know, friends. And we still have family dinner and all that kind of thing. It's just that, in terms of maintaining a healthy relationship, in terms of, you know, being this good role model as a dad, I just felt that there's some character flaws. There's some things that are just missing. They're not there. Yeah, so I think that's kind of my summary of my relationship.
I did not know that your parents were divorced.
Yeah, they are.
When I see them, they have so much love in between the two of them. I could not even tell.
Right, I don't think it's a romantic kind of love anymore. I think it's more of just this deep bond because, you know, they've been through, like I said, they still bunch up and downs, and you know, my parents also started with nothing, ground zero, you know.
Wow. They look like they build almost a beautiful foundation of co-parenting. Because, you know, there's so many people that have dealt with divorce and so on and so forth, and you could clearly see mom and dad are divorced and they don't want nothing to do with each other. They send the kid to go and deal with mom, or send the kid to go and deal with dad. But like I said, when I see your parents, like,
they put it
all aside, and we are family. And I really appreciate it.
Definitely put all the differences aside, all the, you know, the past conflict, trauma, everything aside. And because, you know, they have kids now, they have myself and my younger brother. Yeah, we're doing very well now thanks to the foundation that they built. And so I really appreciate my dad for that, you know, just sticking to it, you know, even though he never plans to have kids. Once the kids are here, he's like, okay, I'm going to go all in terms of, you know, just dedicating myself, you know, the best way that he knows how to do it.
That's beautiful. That is fantastic. Hey guys, I just wanted to slip in something really quick right here. So I want to give a shout out to one of my really good friends, Dallas Vaughn. He's one of our good friends here at the Dad Squad Solutions. He, I believe, is one of the most sharpest Christian entrepreneurs that I know. And he's running something called the Purpose to Profit Workshop. So this is a one-on-one remote workshop where you work directly with Dallas over 5 days to turn your purpose, or let's say your God-given skills, into a clear, high-ticket offer that you can actually start selling. So by the end of the workshop, you'll know exactly what to offer, how to price it, how to start selling it, so you can build your business that will help maybe fund your family or fund other missions that's been impressed on your heart. So as a bonus, you'll get a customized 30-step checklist that's mapped specifically to your particular blueprint. And if for any reason at all, that you think that the entire workshop just didn't hit the massive value that you thought it would, you're gonna get your money back. And you can even keep that checklist. Just get this, the value of that is only $97 for a personalized one-on-one coaching like this. That is awesome. So if you've been sitting on an idea or you feel called to start a high-ticket coaching or service business, this is your next move. So you can go to purpose2profitworkshop.com and grab your spot before spots fill up. I'll make sure to put a link inside the description. So make sure you tell Dallas that you got this from Dad Squad Solutions. Now let's get back to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for T.
The last thing I do.
Now time to get deep.
You said it.
I honestly do feel like this is a beautiful therapy session that we're giving to the world, just to show men how to be vulnerable. And there's a lot of guys who I've even spoken to that they don't like talking about their dads. And in a sense, they share the same view as I did, is like their parents or their dad is dead. And that's easier to deal with than to think that my dad has left me. That's crazy to think that death is easier to take in than rejection.
I get it, bro. Not that I've personally felt like that, but I get where they're coming from or how that can be viewed as an easier way to deal with. Because I feel like, honestly, man, you see, if a person dies, it's a done deal.
Correct.
You know, I don't feel rejected. I don't feel worthless. I don't feel unwanted, all these different things, right? But the fact that I constantly have to live knowing that you chose not to be with me, you chose to leave, that can be hurtful.
Yep.
You know, and I feel like we experience this in so many different aspects of life as well, not just with our fathers. You know, another example is like, so many people commit suicide still today because of relationships where people walk away from that relationship, right? Like what you said, your parents are still, you know, in good relationship. Even if it's not a romantic relationship, it's still a healthy, good relationship, right? That is very rare. Other people would have like committed suicide, like I said, right? Yeah. And that is easy for people to just accept that, okay, man, listen, I'm going to move on because this person has passed. But now that I know that this person is still out there and they make the cognitive decision not to be in my life, that's hurtful, you know? And that living with that hurt is what makes, yeah, I get it.
And this is the person that's supposed to love you. This is the person that's supposed to protect you, care for you, nurture you. And when they make that decision, you feel a sense of worthlessness, right? And so essentially that's where my kind of story kind of came in. And it took me years. I encourage anybody, this walk of forgiveness like we talked about earlier, or just like gratefulness for what your parents did, that sometimes to get to that point takes a long time.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get there. Essentially, I was a mistake. I'm throwing up air quotes. So I was a mistake. My mom was very young. She was 19 at the time. I had some fun with my dad, and then here I came. And she had me when she was 20. And when I was born, apparently this whole thing got out that my dad was actually married. And he was like, you know, I don't want anything to do with you or the baby and what's not. So poof, he was gone. I think I've only met him one time. And in that one time, he picked me up, took me somewhere, let me play with somebody else with video games. He walked away somewhere, was gone for however long, came back and dropped me back home. That's the only physical manifestation of my father that I ever saw. And it got to a point where, and I'm jumping around, but I'm coming back. When I was 16, he was hurt real bad. And I remember my brother called me and he said, you better call your dad because this may be the last time you'll ever get to see him. And I was like, wait, what? Like I barely even knew him and now I have to see him go? Like, regardless if he's never been in my life at all, like, I still love my father. I remember picking up the phone, and I will never forget this day. I picked up the phone, and he answered. Sorry, I called him, and he answered, and he said, "Who's this?" And I said, "Hi, this is your son." And he was like, "What's your name?" I was like, "TK." And he's like, "Oh, you were born March 13th, right?" That killed me in a good way, but it was like, wait, you know my birthday? You actually know me? And so it was this weird like dissonance in between, like, I feel like I should hate you for this, but I also love you that the fact that you know my birthday amongst everybody else. But unfortunately, my dad is not somebody that I would ever want to be like. He was always very distant. He may talk to my brothers from time to time, but he never wanted to discuss anything with me. That was the one and only time I've ever spoken to him. And it's been what, 18 years since then? And we haven't spoken 0 times. So developing as a child, like I had a lot of rejection issues. I started to develop anxiety and all this stuff. And as a Christian, like we say like, this is not what God has for you. Definitely not. That's not the mindset God wants you to have. That doesn't stop it from happening sometimes.
Yeah.
And as a child, you don't know these things, these feelings just kind of come upon you. And based on the situations that you're in, you just kind of fall into it thinking that that's my normal. And so I just thought having anxiety, having panic attacks, having rejection issues was always going to be me. Well, my mom, being the wonderful provider and mother that she is, she got married when I was married when I was 7. And unfortunately, the guy that she married was abusive. So as I was saying, your stepdad, kudos to him because statistics say otherwise. And unfortunately, I fell into those statistics. So I was verbally, physically abused for 14 years-ish. And so that every viewpoint that I had about men was horrible. If I saw my stepfather, I was like, I hate you. I can't stand you. I want to just leave and disappear out of this world. And it didn't help that I had a different name than everybody else in the house. And so they had his last name and I was different. I had my mom's maiden name. It didn't help that whenever I would be abused, I would reach out to people to help me. And if they were men, I would be like, hey, you're a big, strong man. He's a big man. Come help me, come beat him up. Save me, because I can't do it. They all kind of just looked at me and said, I can't do anything about that. And so I always felt this sense of abandonment, one right after the other. And so I gravitated to more female friends because they were way more nurturing. I had a lot of spiritual moms that I would go to and they would like comfort me and tell me, it's going to be all right, or try to protect me from my mom's husband at the time. And there's our housekeeper was Tucker. No, I will never forget this for as long as I live. She's still with us. I remember one day my mom's ex-husband was coming to, I guess, discipline me or yell at me or whatever. And she had been seeing everything that was happening in the house. And I remember she beat him up the stairs and stood in front of my room. And she said, no more. Stop. This is not okay. I'm going to call somebody. And I was like, wait, there's a lady. This is the big, strong man that I dated in my life. Wait, I thought a man was supposed to protect me, but actually there's a lady, a woman protecting me. And so I always gravitated more to the females, didn't really have male friendships like that. Not until I was much older and I realized the value that male relationships, male fellowshipping has on a person like myself. But I struggled, Matt, I struggled. But with that same viewpoint that you had, saying that everything that he does or they do, I want to do the complete and utter opposite of what. So instead of them teaching me what to do, they taught me what not to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, you did this? Nope, gonna do that. You did that? Oh, you chose number 2? I'm gonna choose number 1. Like, I'm done. I can see now, having kids, how valuable they actually were in my life. So I know a lot of people will say, oh, well, they destroyed me. They did this to me. And victim, 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 victim. And I'm like, I'm happy I saw that. Because now the minute I feel like I'm going in that direction with my own children, I'm like, nope. Remember what you went through. Remember that effect that had on you in your life. Like, I'm done with that. So I'm going to do the total opposite. I want to lean on my feelings a lot. I want to just like, lose it sometime. And I'm like, nope. I'm gonna lean on the word of God, and I'm gonna just stay for Jesus. Like, what is it that you need me to do, Lord? Give me the wisdom to handle my children, because you know they're a little feral sometimes. So what is it that I need to do? I chose to make that cognitive decision to move away from the chaos, the trauma. Not saying that they don't have scars. Like, you could get triggered from the different things that you go through. There's certain things that my little brothers will do that will trigger me and remind me of situations that happened in the house, the abuse that happened. And I have to deal with that with my wife and say a counselor or whatever. I have to deal with those things. Those are real. Those are valid that those things happen. But I refuse to let that be a part of my identity.
Right.
I don't want people to look at me and say, oh, you know, TK, the one with the anxiety, the one with the rejection issues. No, because I don't want my son or my sons or my daughter to meet somebody and say, oh, hey, your dad was the one with the anxiety. Your dad was the one with the issues, wasn't he? And no. I want them to feel a sense of pride of the legacy that I'm leaving, because their grandfather before them left pretty much nothing. And so I'm starting from bare ground zero and building things up. Now, albeit I had some really fantastic men in my life that did help me, like my grandfather. He kind of stepped in. I call him dad. And so he kind of stepped in and was there, you know, as much as he could as a grandfather. I had my sensei, Anton. He was like the one that kind of slapped me in shape when I was going off my rebellious tangents. But again, you know, nothing can touch when your dad has walked out of your life. Like, there's still that one area. Of course, Jesus fills those, but there's still that one area that you wish could be filled. And I remember this one time when Peach and I were getting married, and we had gotten married, and we were in the States, but my visa was running out, and I had to leave the country, and I couldn't get a job quick enough to get me in or get me to stay. And my dad was an American citizen. And so I said, oh my gosh, why didn't I just talk to him? Maybe he'll have compassion in his heart to help me,
Wishful thinking.
Oh yeah, my fairy tale was amazing. And I was like, maybe he will help me. Maybe he'll start answering and say, what do you need, son? Like, I'm sorry that this happened to you. Let's try to get you your citizenship so you don't have to leave and you can stay with your wife and you can have a life in the States. And I will never forget, I wrote this long message. No answer. Day 1, no answer. Day 2, no answer. I had to end up leaving. 3 months, no answer. A year, no answer. 2 years, no answer. And like, every so often I kept looking at my phone and I'm like, is this man ever going to answer me?
Maybe today's the day.
Maybe today is the day. Similar to what you said earlier, I had to eventually just say, you know what, I got to let this go. He's never going, or he may not ever answer me. He may not ever say anything. And right now, keeping that phone or keeping that message open, checking that every day is only bringing me back to that feeling of rejection all over again. And so I'm just going to leave this here. If he answers, okay, come on in. You have a seat at the table. No problem. I forgive you. But I don't need to keep carrying myself back there. And so that is essentially the beginning of my journey. So thank you guys for sharing this.
That was beautiful. That was.
All of you are beautiful.
That was, yeah.
So I guess one of my follow-up questions is, what is a huge takeaway? Because we talked about a bit, but what is a huge takeaway that you could say, I learned this from my experiences from my parents or from my dad, and I want to pass this thing on to my children? And, and it could be good or bad that you learn, but you turn it into a positive. What is something that you say, I learned and I want to continue this on with my own children?
I think for me, starting with the positive, I guess. I'll start positive and end with positive. It's a good sandwich in between. All right, I think, yeah, one of the first things that I mentioned, and yeah, sorry that my story is not as dramatic as probably a little bit more peaceful relatively compared to you guys. So I think first thing is the degree that my dad is willing to go to, the sacrifice that he's made financially to the family, and especially to me and my younger brother, yeah, in terms of education, in terms of everything else. Yeah, just that heart of me willing to set aside, his maybe the conflict that he has with my mom, or maybe his own selfishness. He's willing to let that go in order to provide for the family. And so that's something that I want to pass on. Just being willing to sacrifice. Something for me not to pass on, maybe it's a kind of an example for me not to follow, would be not being able to see the other person's point of view, the other person's perspective. That's number one. And number two would be commitment in terms of fidelity, right? Fidelity to your spouse. That's something that I don't want to, I don't want to end up like him. I'm not being faithful to his wife, right? To my mom. Lastly, I'll end with something positive. I think he has a lot of good perspectives to go about living life. And so I think he learned a lot from his mistakes too. And he's growing too. I can see progress in his life, even though right now he's in his 60s. But I see, wow, he really gone a long way. We thought you would never change in certain aspects, but here you are. And so one of the things that he always tells us is to do the right thing at the right time, right? Doing the right thing. That's like one of my, models, right? Yeah. And the second thing is in regards to just having wisdom and discernment in how you manage your money, your finances. And he's all in on. He's very big on that. I can't think of a family dinner where finances was not mentioned. Every single calendar, there's something about money, and I'm like, yeah, it's important. It's not everything, but it's important to us. And I think I really appreciate him for emphasizing that and just sharing from his own experiences. He's been through a lot. He's been through failure. He's been through this and that. He says, well, don't do this. Better trust in that. Don't do this because I've tried it before, And so I think that's something valuable that I can take away and pass on.
That's beautiful. Honestly, that's beautiful. I like to, with my rounding up, I would like to just say that I like to look at the world like a classroom, right? You're always going to be learning something in this world. Even the experiences that we have with our dads, you're going to learn something from it. And it just comes down to you, whether you take it as a positive thing or a negative thing, right? I took mine as a positive thing, right? I was like, it's okay. You were not there. You didn't fulfill these duties that you needed to, but I'm going to take that and take it as a positive thing for me as a guide to know where to walk, how to tread, and what not to do. So I feel like that is the one thing that I took away from my dad, amongst a very few things. So yeah, I would say just the fact that he now has shaped me to be the man that I am because of what he has done. I now know how to go about my life, how to go about my kids. Like I've always said, I want to have kids and I want my kids to be daddy's kids. I don't want it. We always look at this, it's always been a thing. Kids always gravitate toward their mothers more, They need something. It's always, I'm going to go to mom. They want to do something. I'm going to go to mom. They're going through something. I'm going to go to mom because she would understand, or she would be more compassionate, or she would show more, all these different aspects that we can think about, right? And I want to be able for my kids to come to me and see me in that same light and say that I can trust my dad. I can talk to him about anything. He's going to be there for me. He's going to meet my needs. That's the kind of relationship I want to have and cultivate with my kids. These are the things that I want to pass on to my kids. As much as money is important, as much as finances are important as well, I believe that having a relationship with kids or with your kids is equally as important, right? Because take board games, for example. You know, just that quality time you're going to spend with your kids. Your kids might not need a luxury life, right? They might not need to be able to say that my dad gave me all of this. This time you spend with your kids is very valuable. And I feel like that's the kind of dad I want to be. That's what I want to pass on to my kids. I want to be able to give them above and beyond, but also give them my time on top of everything else that I can give it.
That's fantastic.
Short and sweet.
I think just for me, to summarize a lot of different things, I want my kids to know that they are valuable, that they are valued and they're worthy, because there's so many things in life right now that will make them feel like they're not worthy if they don't have this, if they don't look like this, if they don't come from here, so on and so forth. I want them to feel like, hey, my dad, although he went through all the stuff that he did, he still showed us that we were valuable to him. More so that is my emotions and my own feelings and what's not. They take my priority, and I will also be with myself in the meantime. But I just don't want them to walk through life and feel like, well, I guess I'm on the lower end of the spectrum because of this, or we're part of this statistic. I don't want that. I do want them to feel like they know themselves and they're proud to be who they are. And in Christ, they know who they are.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, to all our listeners, put down in the comment section down below, what your experiences were, if they were good experiences, bad experiences, or just, whatever experience you might have had as well. Tell us about it, engage with us. And yeah, we would like to read down those comments as well and see what you guys have to say.
Definitely. And if you have any other questions that you may have, burning questions that you want to know about us or even about your own life, drop those in there too. Let's start a dialogue and let's see how we can maybe help you with any practical, realistic solutions from the Dad Squad Solutions channel.
I mean, like, it's all in the name.
If you'd like to hear more from us and more episodes like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget to share too.
That's right. Solution. All right, until the next one.